History is filled with geniuses who changed the world. But what if the man who laid the foundation for our modern understanding of the universe was also a dueling, hot-tempered nobleman with a prosthetic nose made of metal? What if he kept a psychic dwarf under his dinner table and owned a pet moose that met its end in a drunken tragedy? This isn't a fantasy. This is the story of Tycho Brahe, the most flamboyant, the most bizarre, and arguably one of the most important astronomers who ever lived. He was a man of staggering contradictions, a scientific mind of profound discipline, living a life of chaotic excess. He built the greatest observatory of his age, a castle of the heavens, and charted the stars with an accuracy that was unheard of, all without a telescope. But his greatest legacy might be the mystery he left behind. Did he really die because his bladder exploded from politeness at a royal banquet? Or was he the victim of a sinister murder, poisoned for the secrets of the cosmos that he held so close? To find the truth, we must journey back to a time of superstition and science, of alchemy and astronomy, to uncover the bizarre, brilliant, and tragic life of Tycho Brahe. Tycho Brahe was born in 1546 into the highest echelons of Danish nobility. From the very beginning, his life was anything but ordinary. At just 2 years old, he was kidnapped, not for ransom, but by his own uncle, Johannes Brahe, a wealthy, childless nobleman who had been promised a son by Tycho's parents, but grew impatient. Bizarrely, his parents did little to get him back, and Tycho was raised in his uncle's household, destined for a life of law and politics. But the universe had other plans. In 1560, a total solar eclipse was predicted to occur. When it happened, exactly as the astronomers had foretold, the young Tycho was thunderstruck. It seemed like a divine miracle that humans could predict the movements of the heavens. A fire was lit within him. He began to study astronomy in secret, using his allowance to buy books and star charts, often staying up all night to watch the constellations wheel across the sky, much to the disapproval of his family, who saw it as an unworthy hobby for a man of his station. His passion for precision, however, would soon lead to a legendary and life-altering confrontation. In 1566, while studying at the University of Rostock, a 20-year-old Tycho attended a wedding celebration. There, he fell into a heated argument with his third cousin, Mandara Parsberg. The subject of their dispute? Not politics, not a woman, but a mathematical formula. They couldn't agree on who was the superior mathematician. Their egos, inflamed by youth and wine, demanded satisfaction. They agreed to a duel in the dark with swords. The result was swift and brutal. Parsberg's blade sliced across Tycho's face, shearing off the bridge of his nose. For the rest of his life, Tycho would be a man without a nose. Unfazed, he turned his scientific mind to the problem. He crafted a prosthesis, a false nose, said to be made of a seamless blend of brass, silver, and gold. It was a constant, glittering reminder of his fiery temper and uncompromising nature. This strange, brilliant, and confrontational nobleman caught the eye of King Frederick II of Denmark. The king was a great patron of the arts and sciences, and he saw in Tycho a mind that could bring immense prestige to his kingdom. In 1576, he made Tycho an offer that would change the course of astronomy forever. He granted him an entire island, Verne, in the Øresund Strait, along with an enormous annual stipend, roughly 1% of the entire Danish national budget. On this island, Tycho built his dream, Uraniborg, the castle of the heavens. It was part palace, part laboratory, and the world's first state-of-the-art research institute. It had its own paper mill, printing press, and workshops, for crafting instruments of unprecedented size and precision. Alchemical laboratories bubbled in the basement, while the turrets and balconies were crowned with giant quadrants and armillary spheres, all meticulously engineered to map the stars. Life at Uraniborg was as eccentric as its master. Tycho ruled his island like a king. He held lavish marathon banquets where wine flowed freely, and under his great dining table sat his court dwarf, a man named Jeppe. Tycho believed Jeppe was a clairvoyant, a psychic, and would often drop scraps of food for him, listening intently as Jeppe muttered what Tycho believed were prophecies. But Jeppe was not the strangest member of his court. That honor belonged to Tycho's het moose. The astronomer had a tame elk that would follow him around the castle like a dog. The moose became a local celebrity until a neighboring nobleman invited the creature to a party. Unattended, the moose reportedly drank a great deal of beer, became thoroughly intoxicated, stumbled down a flight of stairs, and tragically died. It was a fittingly bizarre end for a pet belonging to the oddest man in science. Beneath the chaos and eccentricity of Uraniborg, a scientific revolution was taking place. Tycho's work was methodical, rigorous, and obsessive. He understood that to truly know the heavens, one needed data, precise, reliable, and collected night after night for years on end. His first major breakthrough had come years earlier, in 1572. One evening, looking up at the familiar pattern of the constellation Cassiopeia, he saw something impossible. A new star, shining brighter than Venus. This was a cosmic bombshell. For nearly 2,000 years, Western science had been dominated by Aristotle, who taught that the heavens beyond the moon were perfect, ethereal, and eternally unchanging. Tycho's new star, what we now know was a supernova, shattered that ancient doctrine. It proved definitively that the heavens were not immutable. Change could and did happen in the realm of the stars. His book on the event, De Stella Nova, on the new star, made him famous throughout Europe. At Uraniborg, he set out to create a map of the heavens so accurate it would be the final word on the matter. For over 20 years, he and his team of assistants conducted a relentless, systematic observation program. Night after frigid night, they stood on the balconies of their castle, using Tycho's giant, custom-built instruments to measure the positions of the stars and planets. There were no telescopes yet. This was all done with the naked eye, aided by massive pointers, quadrants, and celestial globes. He catalogued over 1,000 stars, measuring their positions with an accuracy 5 to 10 times better than any astronomer before him. His data set was, quite simply, the most valuable scientific treasure in the world. This trove of data led him to develop his own model of the universe. He was a man caught between worlds. He recognized the mathematical elegance of Copernicus's sun-centered model, but he could not accept the radical idea that the Earth was just another planet hurtling through space. His own observations failed to detect stellar parallax, the apparent shift in a star's position as the Earth moves, which he correctly believed must occur if the Earth orbited the Sun. He didn't know the stars were simply too far away for his instruments to detect it. So he proposed the Tychonic system. In his model,
the Earth remained stationary at the center of the universe. The Sun and Moon orbited the Earth, but all the other planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, orbited the Sun. It was a clever, mathematically sound model that fit all the available evidence. While ultimately wrong, it was a logical and important stepping stone between the ancient Earth-centered view and the modern, Sun-centered one.
Tycho's golden age on the island of Halvan could not last. His patron, King Frederick II, died in 1588, and the new king, Christian IV, had little patience for the astronomer's arrogant demeanor and enormous expenses. His funding was cut, and in 1597, Tycho packed up his precious instruments, his reams of data, and left Denmark forever. After 2 years of wandering, he found a new patron, the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf II, an eccentric ruler obsessed with alchemy and the occult. Tycho was appointed imperial mathematician and given a castle near Prague to build a new observatory. But he was getting older, and he knew he needed help to turn his lifetime of observations into a final, definitive theory of the cosmos. He needed a mathematical genius. In 1600, that genius arrived. His name was Johannes Kepler. It was a meeting of two of the most important figures in the history of science, and it was a clash of titans. They were a study in contrasts. Tycho was a wealthy, boisterous, life-than-large aristocrat, a man of observation and empirical fact. Kepler was a poor, intensely devout, and physically frail commoner, a brilliant theorist who believed the universe was governed by divine, mathematical harmonies. Their relationship was a turbulent storm of collaboration and conflict. Kepler was desperate for Tycho's data. He knew it held the key to understanding the true motion of the planets, particularly Mars, whose orbit refused to fit any existing model. But Tycho was intensely secretive. He guarded his observations like a dragon guards its gold. He had spent his entire life and fortune gathering this data. He wasn't about to hand it over to a young upstart who might use it to prove the Copernican theory and steal his glory. He doled out the data to Kepler in tiny, frustrating pieces, always keeping him on a short leash. Kepler grew increasingly resentful. He wrote of Tycho, "Tycho possesses the best observations. He only lacks the architect to put all this to use." They argued over salary, over living arrangements, over cosmological theory. It was a partnership born of mutual necessity and fueled by mutual suspicion. Yet they needed each other. Tycho, for all his observational genius, was not the mathematician Kepler was. He couldn't see the profound secrets hidden within his own numbers. And Kepler, for all his theoretical brilliance, was lost without the raw data to test his ideas against reality. For 18 agonizing months, this odd couple of astronomy, the flamboyant observer and the pious theorist, battled, bickered, and worked together in Prague, unknowingly on the verge of discovering the very laws that govern the cosmos. The final chapter of Tycho Brahe's life is his most infamous. On October 13, 1601, he attended a lavish banquet at the palace of a local baron in Prague. According to the story, retold for centuries, Tycho's lifelong adherence to courtly etiquette became his undoing. He drank heavily, but refused to excuse himself to use the restroom, as he believed it would be a grave insult to his host. He held on for hours. When he finally returned home, he was in agony, unable to urinate.
A fever set in, and he grew delirious. For 11 days he suffered, reportedly muttering over and over on his deathbed, "Let me not seem to have lived in vain." He died on October 24, 1601. The cause of death was recorded as a burst bladder. It was a bizarre end, perfectly in keeping with his bizarre life. But was it the truth? Almost immediately, rumors began to swirl. Some whispered of murder, and the prime suspect was the man who had the most to gain from Tycho's death, Johannes Kepler. Kepler needed that data. On his deathbed, Tycho had relented, urging Kepler to use the observations to prove not the Copernican model, but his own Tychonic system. Yet, as soon as Tycho was dead, Kepler seized the entire collection of data and later used it to do the exact opposite, proving the planets moved in ellipses around the sun. Did he poison his master to get his hands on the prize? For 400 years, it remained a tantalizing historical mystery. The theory was that Tycho had been poisoned with mercury. The case was so compelling that in 1901, scientists exhumed his body from its tomb in Prague. They tested samples of his hair and found significant levels of mercury, seemingly confirming the murder plot. But the science of the time was imprecise. The mystery deepened until 2010, when a team of Danish and Czech scientists were given permission to open the tomb once more. This time, they had the full arsenal of modern forensic technology. They analyzed his bones, his hair, and even the residue on his famous prosthetic nose. They took samples from his beard hair, which grows at a known rate, allowing them to create a timeline of his mercury exposure. The results were stunning. While Tycho did have mercury in his system, likely from his own alchemical experiments, the levels were not high enough to be lethal. More importantly, the concentrations dropped dramatically in the final 2 weeks of his life. He had not been poisoned. So what killed him? The forensic analysis pointed to a much more mundane, yet equally painful culprit. Tycho was suffering from a severe urinary tract infection, likely complicated by an enlarged prostate. This condition would have made urination difficult and eventually impossible. The final banquet didn't cause the problem, but the copious drinking certainly made it an acute, unbearable crisis. His bladder didn't literally explode, but the buildup of urine led to uremia, a fatal poisoning of the blood. The old story, it turned out, was more or less true. Tycho Brahe remains a paradox. He was an arrogant, quarrelsome, and fantastically eccentric nobleman who lived more like a king than a scientist. He was wrong about the fundamental structure of the solar system. He was a product of a superstitious age, a man who practiced alchemy and believed in psychic dwarves. And yet, he was the father of modern observational astronomy. His relentless, unwavering dedication to collecting precise empirical data was his true revolution. He rejected the ancient tradition of simply philosophizing about the universe and insisted on measuring it. He demonstrated that true scientific progress depends on rigorous, systematic, long-term observation. His life did not go in vain. After his death, Johannes Kepler took Tycho's precious data, the most accurate observations in human history, and spent the next decade wrestling with them. It was Tycho's meticulous tracking of the planet Mars that finally allowed Kepler to crack the cosmic code. He discovered that the planets do not move in perfect circles, as everyone from Aristotle to Copernicus had believed, but in ellipses. It was a profound, world-changing discovery. Kepler's laws of planetary motion, built upon Tycho's data, would become the foundation upon which Isaac Newton would later build his theory of universal gravitation. The man with the golden nose, the pet moose, and the castle of the heavens had, through his strange and spectacular life, provided the crucial bridge from the ancient world to the modern one. he mapped the stars so that others, standing on his shoulders, could finally reach them.